Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrane. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. If you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking your full potential in sales and revenue, you're in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And now let's get started with today's guest. Hey everybody, today we are talking with Wesleyne Whittaker. Wesleyne is CEO of Transform Sales, an absolute force in sales and manufacturing, and she describes herself as a reformed chemist. Excited for this conversation? Let's get started. Wesleyne, it is a blessing and a privilege to have you on the show. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here with you.
For the listeners out there, I know a little bit about you, but do you mind sharing about yourself, just where you are in the world of sales today?
Yes. So I always have to start with I'm a recovering chemist, and I stumbled my way into sales, fell in love with it, and my love and my tenacity helped me make a really quick ascent from individual contributor to international sales leader. And as an international sales leader, I was brought in to fix problems within an organization. And then I got bored and I was like, I wonder if I can do this for many companies at once. And so, about almost 7 years ago, I started my own company, Transform Sales. And that's what we focus on, the sales transformation that includes process, strategy, and training.
So there's got to be a story behind becoming a reformed chemist and going into sales. So what is that? Do you mind just giving me a little bit of a flavor for that?
Yes. So as a chemist, I was what they call a failure analysis chemist. So people would bring plastic parts into the lab and say, my customer said this is breaking. Can you figure out why? So I would have to liaise with the salespeople who are actually talking to the customers and use the instruments we had in the lab to figure out, like, I always say, what is the story? Like, what is the why? Why did this break? And so I realized that I really understand that why piece. I really understand the story piece. And as soon as the salespeople would come back from the field, I'd be in their office like, okay, who do you see? What you talk about? What's happening? Tell me, tell me, tell me. And so when I transitioned into sales, I actually started selling capital equipment. So the instruments I was using in the lab, and since I knew them so well from behind the bench, it was an easy transition for me to sell them.
That's fantastic. I've met a number of top sales consultants, transformation experts, et cetera, that have started in some sort of field of science and engineering.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that transition, or at least some people can make that transition really well? For you, what's kind of the core of that?
So I even now, like I did career day at my son's school. He's a fifth grader, a couple weeks ago, and I tell them that what I learned in school as a chemist, it taught me how to think. It taught me how to solve problems. It taught me process. And so one of the cool things, we're talking about the art and the science of sales, right? I think that there is a science to sales because there is a formulaic approach to the way you do things. But then that art piece comes in from those people who have that scientist brain and they're creative. They want to think outside the box because as scientists, as engineers, that's what we're doing. We're looking at problems and figuring out creative solutions on how to solve them.
I recently did a post on LinkedIn that it kind of showed I got to thinking about why I like sales, and it's very similar. My post was, I think there's three kinds of people. I had wrote, I think I have it around here somewhere. Yeah, this massive, what we call sales execution plan, and I used to write a lot of those. And the reason that we did that is to arm. We were building sales teams. It was a sales as a service, so we build sales teams. We had a formula for how we do it. And I'd write this massive thing that said everything from your scripts to how you operate and there were people that, it was funny, there are people that would read the material, could understand the material back and forth, and they just stuck to the material. There was people that would wing it on the other side, that would just wing it. And then there was the beautiful group that made it their own and understood that it was there to solve problems. And it's so much fun to work with that beautiful group, right?
It
That's usually
is. It is. And one of the things that I really pride myself on in when I'm working with teams is like blending, right? So the person who's going to follow all the rules, the person who's like sales training is a waste of time. Like my goal is to bridge the gap and to show them how we take the science, we add our art, right? We take the things that we know, like you must follow up at least 10 times. Everybody knows that, right? That's the science part. But how you do it, that's the art part. That's the fun part. There are 50 different ways to follow up. So let me teach you these ways and then you use the ones that work for you. And I think when we meet salespeople where they are and how they learn, their uptake of information, not just learning it, but actually applying and executing and doing, that moves the needle so much.
well, let's dive into sales this week because you're on the front lines of a lot of different companies, right? You're teaching, training, learning, working from CEOs to VPs of sales to salespeople. What is going on in your opinion? And in terms of, and I think you focus mainly in manufacturing and that type of side. So, what is going on in that world of the USA and sales?
So I would say before 2025, before this year, with all of the things happening with tariffs and all that, one of the things that I see in the manufacturing industry is they are pretty behind in terms of their sales training, sales enablement, sales skill upskilling within their organizations. So many manufacturing companies don't have internal sales training teams. They don't have enablement teams. They don't have that. They have no rev ops. They're not even thinking in that way because traditionally in manufacturing it was a relationship sale. It was a who do you know, this person has been doing this for so long and they're going to introduce you here and there and there. But with the new workforce that's entering into the world, it's things are changing. So the skills gaps are becoming more prevalent. And what's also happening as the workforce is aging, as people are retiring out, they're not doing a good job backfilling. I was literally just talking to somebody this morning. I was like, because it's not really like sexy. Like, who wants to sell wire or a piece of pipe? Like, no, let me go sell cool software. Like, it's just not as fun. So there's a whole perception problem there. And then now bringing it to more recent events, the tariff, the trade wars, it's either really helping people or really hurting people. So manufacturing companies that do a lot of import or even distribution companies, their prices are fluctuating a lot. They're having to figure out how do they absorb some of these costs and pass them on to people. But companies that are 100% US based manufacturing, they're grabbing all of this. This is like great PR, great marketing for them because it's like, yes, we're built here. Our prices aren't going up. Our prices are actually lower now. So it benefits them because our prices are lower since they don't have any of those import export issues.
Well, it seems like then for a salesperson, I'm making a broad generalization here, but for a salesperson in that industry and for the CEOs, and we are in a time of problem solving and solidify, like problem solving and strategy reformation. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's people being able to, I like to say, think outside the box. Like what works in the past isn't going to continue working. And if we think back to COVID in 2020, like that was a big shift, especially in the manufacturing industry, because they were used to selling in front of people. That stopped, right? That completely stopped. Then the world opened up, and I live in the great state of Texas, which it seemed like the world never shut down. So a lot of places like Texas, it was a couple months, but people were back in front of customers. But typically throughout the rest of the country, so people went from not allowing anybody in, then wanting people in front of them all the time, and now we're settling back into the balance of the in person versus virtual, and we're dealing with a whole new complication of price increases and things fluctuating and the uncertainty of what else is going to happen. And I would even add to that organizations that were very heavily leveraged on government contracts, it's hit them a lot also. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I would say, in the economy that's specifically hitting the manufacturing industry.
And it's just the rate of change, that speed of change is since COVID. I was talking to a good friend the other day, over in the UK. But he said this is the third major shift of just increased speed in the last 10 years. What are the core skills in sales and manufacturing that are really highlighting who's performing well and who's struggling?
So I like to boil it down to curiosity. So the salespeople who tend to perform well ask really good questions and don't talk a lot. So you have to be curious in order to do that. They're also curious enough to see. I sold into these customers really well. I've gotten a lot of value here. How can I find other people like this? So being curious and asking yourself questions of what else can I do? What's one step further? I'm going to this trade show in this place that I don't want to be. Who are the customers or prospects around there that I might be able to see when I'm out in the field? So I think curiosity is something that really sets salespeople up. And if we think about the sales pipeline and sales process, every single step in that pipeline, you have to be curious. You have to be curious to prospect, because the more curious you are, the more people you're going to get to outside of your bubble. You have to be curious to do a discovery. That is the whole point of discovery. You have to be curious to negotiate, to write about. Like, being curious helps you to really hone in. And when we double down and think about, okay, so what are the actual skills, Wesleyne? So being able to ask really good questions, being able to hold yourself accountable, right? Like, I know each month I have to close $100,000 in business, and that's typically about 3 sales for me. And it takes me probably about 10 calls, 10 demos before I close those sales. Like, these are my metrics. Every week, if I don't have at least 5 demos, then I'm behind, right? Like, holding yourself accountable, not waiting for your manager to say, did you do this? Did you make your calls? Did you do that? So that accountability, that curiosity, asking really, really good questions, and also recovering from, I would say, some of the mindset setbacks, like rejection. Um, oh my goodness, this is a $50,000 piece of equipment and I've never sold that. Oh, this person wants to outfit their whole facility and that's $1 million. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of money. So they want a 10% discount. And of course, because it's $1 million, like, you talk yourself out of the sale. So those mindset things are the most important things that we want to make sure that salespeople are equipped with.
That's awesome. So how do you go in there? And so how do you go in there and understand? And I know there's a lot of different ways to do this, and people have different ways. But how do you go in there and understand and kind of analyze a sales team? Who's curious, who can hold themselves accountable, who has self leadership, who doesn't fear money conversations and won't discount. Do you have ways of doing that?
Yes. So within our organization, we use an assessment tool. And with that assessment tool, it checks the tactical skills. So consultative selling, the qualifying, the hunting. It also gauges their will to sell. Does this person actually have a desire? Are they committed? Do they want to do this job? And a lot of times, leaders are very surprised. I literally just walked through this with somebody recently, and the person had like an 85% out of 100 in tactical skills, but their will to sell was about 30. And so their data was really low, because if you don't have a will to sell, but you're good at it, that means you're going to burn out. That means that you're not going to be able to continue to push when things get tough. When you get 10 no's out of 10, you're going to clamor. You're not going to keep pushing. You're not going to keep calling. So that will to sell is important. And the third component that we check is called just your sales DNA. And so that is, I call those the warm fuzzies that a lot of people don't think about, right? It's, does this person have a need for approval? Are they comfortable discussing money? And so really thinking about some of those areas that oftentimes we don't think about impact us. They impact us as human beings because we're humans, and we bring our personal lives, we bring our whole selves to work. And so if I grew up in poverty and now I'm in sales, I still have a scarcity mindset that I'm bringing to my customers. And that scarcity mindset I'm bringing to my customers is going to prevent me from asking for top dollar. It's going to make me roll over every time they ask for a discount. So those components are what we look at when we're evaluating a sales force. And based on that, that's how we set up what the development plan is.
So you have a very chemistry based, science based view of diving in with those sales teams. What are the CEOs most surprised about when you start to go in and uncover things about their teams? I mean, do you have like big aha moments? Are they, when you're doing this, are they kind of the, can you categorize those aha moments, or is it just different for every company?
Yeah, so I started telling the CEOs when we were going to have this debrief to make sure that they're well caffeinated. And I always do them in the morning because probably 30 minutes in, their eyes are like rolling back into their head because they're like, we knew it was bad, but we didn't know it was this bad. And so, like, the data really opens their eyes and they can really see the gaps. Oh, this is why we have a pipeline that's like this. Like, this is why we have no consistency. Oh, that is why, like, there's one of the components that we look at is suitable for working remotely. And the last team that I evaluated, 75% of them were not suitable for working remotely. I was like, they're probably not working. So I went and I looked into the CRM and I'm like, there's like nothing here. This is all junk. And then I looked at not suitable for working remotely. I was like, I bet they're not working. Like literally. So for me, I always allow the data to tell a story. But what this does is it gives CEOs, it gives leadership a very, very quantitative view at why things aren't working. It allows them to see why they're not consistently hitting their numbers, why people are not, why the top performers are good and the bottom performers are not so good. And unfortunately, when I show them the data, they're usually really low performers. And sometimes the low performers are not putting in effort and they're not putting in their best to try to get themselves better. And the question that I ask is, why are they still on the team? If they're not performing and they're not giving effort, then why are you investing so much in them and they're not giving anything to you?
How much of the answer back on that is, I don't know, or I'm scared to let them go?
I had one CEO who was like, I think we should just fire the whole sales team and start fresh. I said, nope, we're not going to do that. That's you, because it was all, I mean, all the data was bad. And he was just so frustrated with their performance. And then most of them, because I then, when they say that, the next thing I back it up with is, have you given them 100% of what they need to succeed? And no one can ever say yes. They can never say yes. So it's the onus is on us as leaders to give our people the tools to succeed. Because if you've never given them sales training and you've never even given them anything other than product knowledge, how do you expect them to sell? You want them to be ready made. And so that's that pushback that I have to give to leadership. But that's the point where we start building accountability. We start making sure that, okay, we're focusing on the skills development. What is the checkpoint to make sure this person is learning how to do one, two, three things, right? Like making sure we have that feedback loop in.
Hallelujah. Yeah, no, that is, it's one of the things that's so brilliant about the work you're doing, but it's also, it's uncovering the areas, but it's not just about holding the salespeople accountable to get better, which I mean, it is. I mean, you can identify where the areas are and how we can train and put together plans, give them tools, but it's about holding the company, the leadership better. Like that self accountability is, you must see just some absolute transformations once you start to do this in a leadership team. Any good stories on that you can share?
Yes, so I had a client that I worked with over the past year. And when I work with organizations, leadership is important. So I'm always working with the leadership to upskill them, to coach them, to develop them. And I work with their team also. So I work with the leader and their team. And so this particular leader, he was actually on a PIP. And he was like, I guess I'm just going through this exercise because they're going to fire me anyways. And I was like, I need you to understand that your company is investing in you, right? So within 30 days, he had this huge mindset shift. I mean, he's probably my best success story because in 30 days, he really locked in and we got the team in lockstep with him. And when we started working together, they were at a $9 million annual budget quota. In 12 months, they got to 31 million.
Holy mackerel.
Yes, literally. So literally the way that I talk about him is from PIP to President's Club, because in 12 months he went from being on a PIP to being recognized at President's Club because his region did so well. Like they grew tremendously in 12 months. And it started with the mindset. Like I had to help him realize, because at that point, this is a large multi-billion dollar company. He was trying to get out of his position. He was trying to run away. And so I said, well, what are you running from? Like, what are you running from? And he was like, ooh, that's a great question. And
Great coaching question.
so
Wow.
he sat with that. And I said, you realize that you're only focusing on 25% of your sales team because that's your comfort area. Those are the products you like to sell. The rest of them, you're not doing anything. This is actually how I talk to clients. So what I had to do was I had to help him realize like he was his barrier. And then when we started wrapping the team into those sessions, so we have the team coaching, training sessions, like they saw their leader on fire and that resonated into them. Like they were energized, they were revived because it flows from the top. If your leader is just halfway there, then you're going to be halfway there.
That's so good. That's a great story. And hopefully he's like sending you a Christmas turkey or something. He's
It
like,
is, and it's continuing because that was in 2024, and every one of the things that I encouraged him to do was update his leadership every quarter, right? Like, how are things going? If it's good, let him know it's good. If it's bad, let him know it's bad. And so he BCCs me on those emails, and he's still like, they're still climbing. Like they're still blowing it out every quarter. He's like, this quarter we exceeded 20%. Like they're in, because once you equip people with the mindset that they need and then give them those tactical skills, it flows out to the organization and it never leaves them.
so driving curiosity, driving excitement, taking accountability for your actions, that mindset is a huge shift. And then like equipping them with those skills. How does that look like in terms of what you do with the companies? Are you just, so you come in and do coaching, or do you have like a training program that you deliver alongside this? What are some of the services that you dive in after that assessment?
So we assess, and our every training or every engagement is different because it's really a skills based program that we put together. So we kick it off with a virtual sales sprint. And what I found, so I am not a proponent for 8, 10, 12, 15-hour sales training because the retention of the knowledge is just not there. So we kick it off with a 2-day virtual sales sprint, 3 hours each day. Literally start at the top of the morning in their time zone. And what I do, the way that I deliver my sales sprints is I call it micro learnings. So I never I'm never talking for more than 15 minutes at a time. And so I teach something and then they have to do something, whether it's their own self-reflection or they're in a big group or they're in breakout groups. And one of the best pieces of feedback that I have gotten from my sales sprint is I think probably about 30% of the people say we want more. This is too short, Wesleyne. I'm like, we've been out here for 3 hours. Y'all want to be out here longer? But it's that engaging. So we kick it off with that, but we have to continue layering in the coaching, the development. So I work with the leaders and then I work with the team, and we have continual sessions of coaching and training over the next 90 days to 6 months to continue reinforcing the concepts that we've really rolled out during the sales sprint.
So I'm gonna pivot slightly because I have a question that I need to ask because we're using these definitions, we're using these words, coaching, training, those type of things. So let's focus on that coaching. So what type of impact do you see just in general when companies take on a coaching culture? When it is something that they actually need to, it's not, I'm going to tell you what you have to do and only measure your numbers, but I'm actually going to invest in you one-on-one and help you get better. Um, do you, what type of impact do you see that causing on results and teams?
So one of the biggest impacts, especially in this industry that I work in manufacturing and distribution, it's a very, to put it, lightly, it's like a good old boys club, right? Like it's a work is work, home is home. And most of us were raised that way. Like I came up through corporate America. Don't bring your personal life to work. But one of the key things when I'm working with leaders is there's always something going on personally that's impacting the way they lead. Whether they're going through a divorce, or they have just lost somebody in their life, or they're dealing with a really bad illness, and they don't want to tell anybody at their company. So they hold it in and they keep pushing and they keep going and they keep moving, but their revenue, their team, like everything is impacted and they don't make that connection point. So in coaching, that's the first thing that we do. And so within the first few months, I am breaking down what those barriers are. I have a client right now that I'm working with, and they told me this has been the hardest development that they've ever done in their life. And they say every time I get on here, I just feel like you just crack. It's like you're cracking an egg as soon as I get on here, because I'm like, pull down the veil. What is the issue? So the person that I shared with you, one of the PIP to President's Club, his challenge was they were so deep in debt and they were living check to check. And I was like, you're a sales leader and I know you're making a lot of money. So literally, I made him and his wife get on a budget. And every single week, they had to sit down and talk about money. Like, that's not something that's typically done, but whatever that personal thing is. And so, what happens when the leader realizes it's okay to be a little vulnerable, it's okay to open up a little bit, they start infusing that into their team. So when they're having one-on-ones with a salesperson, when they're having one-on-ones, they can say, so I've seen something, a change in your behavior. And so, like, let's talk about that. And I even encourage them to have one-on-ones where you're not pulling up any kind of CRM or anything. Like, you're just having a personal conversation. And once we bring down that veil of that cover, that's when things unlock. And literally, it's like we creep along and then we make this huge uptick because they realize it's okay to be human.
Well, thank you for that work, because that work I mean, knowing the numbers, knowing the skills, knowing the training, all that is important. But that work to actually be able to deliver that in a way that's received and that walk alongside somebody in coaching, it's a gift. And I wish we had a lot more great coaches. And that's one of our missions is, and my mission is to help continue to build those to elevate the sales profession. Um, so great work. That's awesome that you're digging in there. It's so important. And I think it's that one-to-one relationship is and that coaching is one of the biggest things that we can do to just increase our trust,
It is.
right? That's how we go from PIP to President's Club. That's amazing. That is just amazing work.
And the
Um,
thing is, it's when we upskill our leaders, we upskill our team. And so I'm working with the leader, but the reason why I work with the leader and I work with the team is because a lot of times they don't know what good looks like. So when I'm training their team, they're a student. They are not the leader, they're not the teacher, they are learning too. And throughout that process, we transition from me delivering the training to them delivering it, because they have to see what good looks like. They have to learn about it before they can do it. We put a lot on leaders by, oh, you were a great salesperson, now go do that over here, without actually giving them the skills. And so it, again, the onus is on us. How are we making sure that this person knows how to deliver training? How do we even know that they know how to do a coaching session or hold a team meeting if they've never seen it modeled well?
it's interesting. I'm going to make a little pivot here because I have a comment we're seeing this come out the other side in a whole new generation of products delivered by AI, right? We're seeing this not equipping leaders to be able to coach and do one-on-ones and actually develop relationship. And we're looking at the other side where people we're saying, oh man, you just have an AI coach, because a salesperson doesn't need to interact with a person that way. And I do believe, I'm a firm believer, and there's a spot for AI, and there has to be. It's coming, right? That's just is what it is. But in terms of that human to human connection and that personal coaching with an individual that cares for you, that can dive in, show you that, I think that is such a bigger leverage point
Mhm.
than being, and to train those leaders is a bigger leverage point than to go in and to purchase a tool that all of your reps could practice against. I don't know if you have any thoughts or feedback on that. It's one of those things, trends that I see that actually is a bit concerning to me. It's like, instead of investing in the leadership and teaching them how to coach and teaching them how to grow and teaching them how to learn, we're just getting a tool.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. Like, we can't allow any kind of technology to replace what humans do. So just like what I was saying, that vulnerability, that authenticity, a robot's not going to tell you how to do that. Like, okay, they can listen to your calls, they can read your emails, and they can do those things and give you feedback on how to be better tactically, right? And again, going back to the art and the science, maybe they can help on the science part, but they can't help with the art part, right? They can't help in the, okay, so you're sending 50 emails a day and you're not getting any responses. AI will tell you all the reasons why the email isn't right, but you need a leader to be like, are you even targeting the right person? Like, are you sending the email at the right time? Like, I mean, you need humans. Like, I firmly believe there is a place for AI. And I think about what are the tactical repetitive tasks that you have to do. Those are the things that we should use technology to help us with. But we cannot abdicate our responsibility to lead, to coach, to develop our people because we need humans.
Yeah. No, you and I see eye to eye on that, completely eye to eye. Hey, I thank you so much for this session, this podcast. This has been awesome. I highly recommend anybody down in Texas or around the U.S. in manufacturing, make sure you're reaching out to Wesleyne. Wesleyne, how do they do that?
I would say the best way is on our website, transformsales.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm on there every day talking about all things sales, leadership, and mindset.
Yeah, and I'll go ping a couple of those posts just so people know. But yeah, definitely follow Wesleyne. One of the things I love about your content, it shines bright. Like you bring the real you, so that's a good thing. And keep keep after it. And thank you for the impact that you're making on the world of sales. It's a big one.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. It's been fun.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for listening. Please make sure you're liking, you're subscribing, you're clicking, you're doing all of those things that that algorithms like and can get this content out there more. And as always, keep shining bright. Have an amazing day. And